Yeah, JRS started to work in South Sudan. This was almost at the same time that we were working in northern Uganda. So basically the Sudanese that we have supported in South Sudan over the years were refugees in northern Uganda. And with the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, the refugees in Uganda then moved into South Sudan. And we had already started the projects along the border with Uganda, within southern Sudan. And the reason was simple because they were returnees after over 20 years of conflict. And so part of the JRS mission is always to accompany. So since we had been working with these refugees in Uganda from South Sudan, it was natural that on their return we would accompany them as part of our mission. We work now in 4 specific projects, include Lobone, Nimule, Kajokeji, and Yei.
One of the things that we promote as Jesuit Refugee Service is the education of all people, and particularly displaced persons. For the case of South Sudan, education was and still is a key component of our work. JRS promotes education for girls. Predominantly in African society, the girl child was often sidelined when it came to accessing primary and secondary education. Many of the girls, particularly in South Sudan, were often married off at a very young age, many before even completing primary school. And we would see a tremendous drop in the enrollment rate of girls, especially in primary and secondary education, as they progress to the higher levels. And for us to engage, we felt it necessary that promoting education and access to education for the girls was equally as important as for the boys. In a situation where South Sudan had come out of conflict and working towards peace, education by JRS has been promoted as a fundamental right for all.
My name is Caroline Eio Edgebert. My age is 15. I started my schooling in central Uganda. Then, reaching secondary school, I managed to become the best because of the reading habits I have, the timetable I've drawn for myself, and the interest I put in studies. I do a lot of chemistry, biology, and partly physics. Most of the girls think that those science subjects are only for boys, that boys are the only ones who can manage them, but I encourage them that even girls can do that. If you put your interest on it, you can do it.
There was a lot of disintegration of societies. Many of those who had been displaced into Uganda, into Kenya, and into neighboring countries had experienced a lot of aggression, had lived with the trauma and the consequences of the war. One of the important things that JRS has done and continues to do is to promote peace building and cohesiveness amongst the society. Now that many have to return home after the peace, we are engaged with them through building awareness, sensitizing communities on the need to coexist, on the need for forgiveness, reconciliation, on the need for peaceful resolution of conflicts whenever they arise. Trainings through community awareness workshops And through empowering the local community leaders as well as the local and cultural leaders, is to ensure that they build structures, both traditional and modern structures, that will embrace the idea of a more united country and a more united community that will not go back to war and will not consider going back to war, especially after the consequences and the trauma they have lived through.
I think as an individual who is representing the rest of my colleagues in the community area of peace building, the peace program is the most important of all. Without peace, the rest of the other programs will not proceed.
So we have here just a very basic chapel, as you can see, made with metal poles and a corrugated iron roof. We had here before just a grass roof chapel with wooden poles, and the danger with such a structure is of bushfires in the dry season, and that's what happened about a year ago. The chapel burnt down. When we spoke to the local catechists in each chapel and the chapel council members, people said it would be much better to use the money to build semi-permanent chapels, because the most important thing is to have a roof over your head, because just to keep off the rain. The walls can always be added later because they're not essential. The important thing is to keep off the rain, otherwise you'll just be under a tree, and in the rainy season it's often impossible to hold the church services. And again, the idea is to help people generate income, because South Sudan is probably one of the poorest countries in the world. Very few people have a proper means of income, and it's to help people and encourage them and to give them confidence to believe in themselves that they're capable of producing more than enough income for more than for just survival, but actually for living. In just over 2 months, JRS will exit. Many people have asked me about how will the initiatives we've begun, the agricultural initiatives, how will they be sustained? Well, one way is we've trained 2 young men as catechists, and they will, they do a lot about agriculture and also leadership, and if you like, helping the Christian community to be a real Christian community in every sense.
And usually our mission is to accompany, serve and advocate the rights of refugees and forcibly displaced people. So this would be internally displaced people. Now that does not rule out the returnees, especially when we have been working with them as refugees as we did. JRS intervention in South Sudan is becoming more moving from emergency and accompaniment to development. And when projects move from emergency assistance accompaniment in what we have been doing to more development, and so we are happy that we were able to accompany the people that we were with as refugees. We were happy that we have stayed this long. We have put in place the infrastructure. The procedures have been right. The community has been involved. We have been in touch with the Ministry of Education and some other community organizations. That's the time JRS feels it is time to move on.